Hi there, for today's Read Aloud, we will be reading the story Jane Goodall, Chimpanzee Expert and Activist by Grace Hanson. So before we begin reading, I would like for you to think back to the characteristics of a biography. So remember, a biography tells about the life of a real person. So Jane Goodall is a real person, okay? So we are also going to be learning why this person is important, events from this person's life, information about where the person lived, worked, and traveled, and ways the person made a difference in the world. You're also going to notice either drawings or photographs. We should be talking about the earliest to latest events in Jane Goodall's life, and we should see a timeline. So please pay attention to all those characteristics as we listen to this story, Jane Goodall. And before we begin, here's the title, and it's kind of hard to see. Here's Jane Goodall, and then there's 3 chimpanzees. So, with me telling you that, and right here, Chimpanzee Expert and Activist, go ahead and make a prediction on what you think is going to happen in this story. Alright, if you need more time, just go ahead and pause the video, but let's go ahead and listen to the story.
Abdo Kids, History Maker Biographies. Jane Goodall, Chimpanzee Expert and Activist by Grace Hanson. Abdo Publishing Company. Early life. Jane Goodall was born on April 3, 1934. She was born in London, England. England, London, Europe, Asia, Africa. As a girl, Jane loved animals. She spent time playing and exploring. She dreamed of living in Africa.
Let's pause real quick. Okay, so far, this is a photograph, yes? And did it tell us where where she lived when she was younger? Early life. Jane Goodall was born on April 3rd, 1934. She was born in London, England. So right here, we see some more photographs, but we're also learning about her early life, right? So we're not starting from whenever she was older, but we're starting from the beginning. Let's keep listening.
Jane finished high school in 1952. She could not afford to go to college, so she worked small jobs. To Africa. In 1956, Jane was invited to Africa. Her friend's family had a farm in Kenya. Jane happily said yes. In Africa, Jane met Dr. Louis Leakey. Jane helped him dig for fossils. Leakey gave her a new job. It was to study chimpanzees in Tanzania.
Really quickly, so in the title, Jane Goodall, Chimpanzee Expert and Activist. So did you use the title to help you make a prediction? Okay, if you did, is your prediction coming true so far? Did you think there was going to be chimpanzees coming up in the story? If you did, good job. Let's keep going.
Learning about chimps. At first, the chimps ran away from Jane, so she watched from afar. In time, they let Jane get closer. Jane learned many things about chimps. They used twigs as tools. They could be mean. More often, they were kind and loving. Jane Goodall Institute. Jane knew chimps needed protection. In 1977, she started the Jane Goodall Institute. Its mission is to protect all living things. Jane today. Today, Jane travels most of the year. She speaks to many people. She teaches them to make the world a better place. Timeline. 1934. April 3rd. Jane Goodall is born in London, England. 1952. Jane finishes high school. 1956. Jane's friend invites her to her family's farm in Kenya. 1957. Jane travels with Dr. Leakey and his wife to dig for fossils. He offers Jane the chance to study chimps in Tanzania. 1960. July 14th. Jane arrives in Tanzania. November. Jane observes the chimps using tools. 1977. Jane founds the Jane Goodall Institute for Wildlife Research, Education, and Conservation. 1994. Jane and Tanzanian students found roots and shoots. It is an environmental and education program.
Okay, now that we've gone over the timeline, let's go ahead and go over the glossary. This is actually a text feature, okay? Fossil, the remains, skeleton, footprint, leaf of something that existed a long time ago. Mission, a goal stated by a person, group, or business. Protection, the state of being kept from harm or loss. So if you notice any of those bigger text or bold words, fossil, mission, protection, throughout the story, here's what they mean. Okay? So now that we've gone over, we've listened to the story, listened to the timeline, or gone over the timeline, and gone over the glossary, let's go over the characteristics of a biography. So go ahead, take a moment to yourself and think. Try to think back. What is a biography? Give you a moment to think about it. Okay, if you need more time, just pause the video. But a biography tells about the life of a real person. Who was the real person we learned about today? Jane Goodall, chimpanzee expert and activist, right? So let's go over the different characteristics. Why was a person important? Why was Jane Goodall, chimpanzee expert and activist, important? She helped to save chimpanzees, right? So events from this person's life. Well, right here in the timeline tells several events from her life. Where she was born, when she finished school, when Jane's friend invites her and her family to their farm in Kenya, and then whenever she starts beginning her work to help save chimpanzees. So this biography does tell about the events in Jane Goodall's life. So check. Information about where the person lived, worked, or traveled. Yes, I just named those, so check. Ways the person has made a difference. Towards the end of the story, we talk about later in her life, it does talk about how Jane Goodall made a difference, which was she helped to protect and save chimpanzees. So check. Did we notice photographs? Remember, photographs aren't drawings. They're pictures taken with a camera. Check. The events in order from earliest to latest. So do we talk about later in her life and then go back to the beginning of her life? Or do we start from the beginning, the earliest, to the latest? Yes, earliest to latest. And then do we talk about a timeline that shows the order of events in her life? We do. We just went over that, the timeline. And here are the different events with the years, from earliest to latest. Okay? Well, I hope you enjoyed today's biography, Jane Goodall, chimpanzee expert and activist, and I hope you learned a few new things about this person. Okay, I hope you enjoy the rest of reading today.